A big hello and a very warm welcome to a special mentorship mini-series called Starting Up with Ronnie Screwalla. Starting up is in vogue in startups, the current flavor of the country. While we still have miles to go before we actually become a nation where entrepreneurship is nurtured, encouraged and cultivated, we've still come a long way from where we were, let's say, even 5 years ago. But for those of us who've dared to dream and embrace the uncertainty that comes with becoming an entrepreneur, very rarely does one get the opportunity to interact and seek advice from an entrepreneur who's been there and done that and is a role model for the young and restless. So this is really ET Now's endeavor to not only celebrate the individuals who've managed to get out of their comfort zones and tread the lonely path of entrepreneurship, but also provide them a platform where they can be mentored by one of India's most celebrated entrepreneurs. As the show suggests, I'm talking about none other than Ronnie Screwalla. Now, Ronnie really needs no introduction, but for the uninitiated, Ronnie's journey is a rather inspiring one that spans from cable TV to toothbrush manufacturing, from theatre to media and entertainment. Founder of one of India's largest media and entertainment conglomerates, UTV. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Ronnie Screwalla. Ronnie, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been some time now, but, week after week we're at it now, so let's get on with it.
Right. Just before we kickstart, this show and, introduce our three very dynamic entrepreneurs, Ronnie, you've been, A, you've got an eye on this whole community. B, you've been interacting with them on the show. Do you think, the standard of entrepreneurship here today, as it stands, is at par with the West? Or do you think we have some time to go?
I think we have some time to go. And I don't mean that in a critical sense. Sure. I mean in a very constructive sense. I think the depth at which you need to think through things doesn't happen here. I think overall in the West, it's a very, very competitive environment. It's a very large market. You can get out there and there's a market for you. Here, you've got to struggle for the market. But on the flip side, it's a very competitive market. So from day one, if you're not hugely prepared, you're off. You're out of a whack. And I think we don't get that intensity, we don't get that seriousness. And we think we got a couple of ideas, we're going to try this, which is nice and impulsive. Depth of homework is lacking.
Fair enough, fair enough. Also today, joining us are three very dynamic entrepreneurs: Sairee Chahal, founder of SHEROES, Karthik Sridhar of Data Culture, and Ritu Soni Srivastava, founder of Obino. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And with that, let me put the spotlight on the first entrepreneur, who is Sairee Chahal, founder of SHEROES. Good to have you, Sairee. But, before I throw it to you, let's take a look at Sairee's backstory and really her journey and her career timeline before, of course, she decided to turn entrepreneur.
I'm Sairee. I'm 38. I grew up in small town India and I came to Delhi in 1994 for my studies. I passed out from JNU. I had an MPhil from JNU. And I did my first startup right after that. We set up world's first newspaper for marinas. And that company got acquired. After that, I got an opportunity to work with CII, with corporates like Heidrick & Struggles. And somewhere along the way, women's careers became important to me. And I set up SHEROES in 2014 to help companies become more gender balanced and to help women who are looking at career opportunities, jobs, mentorships, career resources all in one place. We help companies become gender diverse, but we also help any woman with a career question on her mind. So SHEROES.in was set up about a year ago with about an investment of $100,000, and we are growing.
Well, now that you've heard Sairee's backstory, it's over to you, Sairee, to talk about what SHEROES is all about and, of course, impress Ronnie Screwalla.
Right. So I think before I talk about SHEROES, let me sort of put three very basic numbers on the table. India is home to the maximum number of women graduates anywhere in the world. There are 17% women in workforce, 5% in leadership, and 48% women who join workforce drop out. So I think just these four numbers are enough to sort of get my story started.
Fantastic. That's a good way to start.
And what we essentially do is we work with women across career stages. typically careers are designed as a ladder. And it turns out life doesn't work in a ladder anymore. Life works more like a maze. And for women, it's even more a greater maze. SHEROES is designed to help women stay connected to their careers, do well in their careers, or start up, or make a choice that they will by aligning them to mentorship, resources, community, and opportunities. And the opportunities come in all shapes and sizes, which means as early as internships and as late as startup help, corporate diversity hiring, flexible opportunities. Today, we are one of the largest and the cleanest source of corporate flexible work from home jobs.
Great. And how do people find you?
Right now, a lot of word of mouth, right? A lot of viral. Women get more women. Women tell more women, and that's how we've grown.
So some numbers outside of the statistics.
Yeah, so very simple numbers. We're almost 500,000 women. About 4,000 companies use the platform. About 1,300 locations that we are spread in. All through the platform.
So what's your question?
We're creating an ecosystem. We're an ecosystem company. So the last big ecosystem company we know is Google, right? There is. Yes, there is.
I'll have to take back what I said in the beginning that everyone doesn't do their homework now. Anyway, carry on. We're having fun.
We want to put 1 million women back in workforce.
Right.
Right.
And back from where? Back from the fact they went on maternity leave. Back from the
fact. Back in workforce means. Since 48% women are dropping out, obviously there's a gap.
And therefore the service that you're going to give them is of a critical knowledge that if they didn't get that, they wouldn't get back into the workforce.
Yes.
And what is the single largest ecosystem thing that you need to get to make that happen?
I think that's opportunities to begin with. Okay. There have to be that many opportunities before these women
Correct. Your money comes from?
Corporates.
Yes.
You want to share which phase of your, investment phase you are in, whether you're profitable or not?
Right. So I think because we had a little learning from the past, we sort of started with the premise that we're going to bootstrap it till a level where it reaches scale. But we've always kept revenue streams alive from day one. So which means So
are you profitable?
We're not profitable because we still sink investment in, but we break even.
You think you're bootstrapping too much and that's constraining your growth right now?
We were, and we're changing that.
You're changing that.
Yeah.
Because that I think is, because then it's a contradiction to a certain extent.
Yes.
Bootstrapping is good, but I think people don't know when beyond the point, you're going to stagnate.
Yes.
You've got to scale with your entire ecosystem of creating the employability environment.
Yes.
I know you've got the other 3 or 4, but at the bottom of this whole thought process is a one-line story, which is you're creating employment opportunities.
Yes. We're going to take a short and quick break because coming up we have 2 very interesting entrepreneurs who are raring to go and, of course, waiting to shoot questions to Ronnie. But we'll be back with that in just a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Starting Up with Ronnie Screwalla. Now, you just heard Sairee Chahal of SHEROES, and now it's time to turn the spotlight onto the second entrepreneur for today's show, who's Karthik Sridhar of Data Culture. But before I throw it to you, Karthik, let's take a look at Karthik's backstory before he decided to turn entrepreneur.
I'm Karthik Sridhar. I'm 34 and an engineering graduate from Birla Institute, Mesra. I was born in Kerala and raised in Delhi. I've been lucky to have traveled world over in my work life. My career started with logistics and procurement for Delphi Automotive Systems, the largest auto components firm in the world. I then moved to strategy consulting with Corporate Executive Board, where I advised CXOs in developing decision-making systems. Here I found that insights have a better top-line and bottom-line impact when embedded into the software. This was the premise behind starting Data Culture. We wanted to make a machine learning platform so powerful and so ubiquitous that no matter the size or the complexity of the data, the algorithms would power the software with insights and automate the process. With a startup capital of only rupees 50,000 and with the support of my partners Gurudat Bhobe and Shyam Somnath, we started Data Culture in September 2014.
Well, now that you've heard Karthik's story, let's hear you on Data Culture and what it's all about.
Okay. So the idea for Data Culture didn't come immediately. The challenge that we wanted to address was how are people consuming data? How are they making decisions out of that? Because we view decision makers as really behavioral economists. The core idea of the name data culture itself is the challenge is to our clients and our customers to say that whether you
So how many clients do you have presently?
We have about 4 clients that we are in various stages. What's happening right now is that validation of our idea of building machine learning platforms to which would help them to understand their customers better, predict the likability of those customers to your product, make them appear with you better. And in a completely different application, we do it with logistics companies where we help them predict whether there's going to be a delay because of XYZ reason. We help them. Well, the biggest takers of this are e-commerce firms where
So I think basically in a broad sense, that's the big data. And data mining.
Predictive analytics.
Okay. And how many people in the team?
We are right now about 6 people.
Great.
Very small.
So let's go with your questions.
The question, and this is slightly tricky.
The question itself is tricky?
Yeah, even for me it was tricky.
Okay.
Every startup goes through a different phase of risk. My question really is, how do you communicate that risk? And risk has different stakeholders. I was coming to that. The risk has different stakeholders. The risk towards that I have towards my employees, the risk that my platform has towards the customers. No matter how robust your knowledge base is, no matter how robust the technology really is, there is that element of risk. And then there's the risk that you want to go.
Why are you all worried about that? Why are you worried about risk and the ability to communicate the risk at this early stage in this business?
Our Indian customers and the way we interacted with them, they want to know the big name behind whatever solution that they're buying because it's a business critical.
But they're coming to work with you, so they're not looking at you as a risk.
Precisely. So the risk really is for us is to maintain that that time frame. That.
But what do you want to communicate? What do you want to communicate?
We want to communicate whether we are risk averse or we're not, and how do we communicate really?
You might be overthinking this problem, don't you think, a little bit? Because of the simple reason that, firstly, you've got a lot of data experience, and you've, as you said, you started in your early 20s and you've got that. You've got a good team of people. You've seven people that are experts in that field. What is it that can go wrong in this setup with 4 clients right now that you think that in top of your agenda, or at least part of your top of your agenda, is to risk communicate? I'm not getting that.
The way we are looking at it is how do we preserve being bootstrapped? That being the larger
That's a
problem.
different thought process.
That's a different
question altogether. So let's finish with this. Are you overthinking this problem?
We still have certain questions of risk that we're dealing with when it comes to, let's say, even employability, right?
No, but I think that's fine. Talking with the team and talking extremely open, strongly recommend. Communicating to your client if you think you're falling short on something at the time in which you're falling short, that's candidness. So how do you go about communicating risk? I think you're putting it in you're starting with a negative perception.
So how do we assess it and then how do we communicate it?
You're figuring it out as you go along. Communicating is being frank and open about situations that need to get communicated and not withholding anything and giving the total picture. More with the team, and I'm not saying less with your clients, but what they need to know and how you go forward on that basis. So I think you're overthinking that. But let's move to the next one. Maybe we can come back and find this answer there.
So the next question is, we've been bootstrapped for a fairly long time. How do you actually, when do you decide that I need to get, so for example, there are...
In your past, were you working with multinationals?
Yes, I was.
Okay, because I think you've got a lot of that overhang there, genuinely speaking. And I don't mean that negatively again, but it's a lot of overhang that you've got in there. Which you haven't reached that scale and you're carrying all those lessons. There's a little bit of unlearning that maybe you need to do because I think you've got a fair amount of overhang in your mind, the way I hear it, just off the cuff in that split second. And you need to de-learn a little bit of that. Because till you get to that level, these are all problems that you're building castles in the air for in that thought process.
Yeah, I would say.
You will know when you need to stop bootstrapping. And I think that's not too far away. You can think 5 years ahead. So if you think 5 years, there are about 10 more things in front of you, then when will I stop bootstrapping? For a what I would call a business with a margin plus, I think big data in India is still going to take some time. And unless you get to a real scale, you will be bootstrapping. So
now that we've listened to Karthik and Ronnie's interaction, it's time to, of course, turn the spotlight onto the last and third entrepreneur for today, and that's Ritu. Ritu, but of course, before I hand it over to you, let's take a look at what Ritu was up to before she founded her company.
Hi, My name is Ritu. I'm 36 years old and I was born and brought up in Kerala in a civil services family. I did my graduation in English literature and then did an MBA from Manipal. I started my career right here in Bombay as a salesperson for Wipro. I then moved on to become a radio jockey with 93.5 Red FM, kind of grew up the ranks to head the station. I then had the opportunity of launching Radio 1 FM 94.3 in Delhi and then went on to join Airtel as part of their new product development team, and we launched a music on demand mobile music product, which was one of their top grossing products and also went on to win a GSMA award. I was then lucky enough to be part of the fledgling digital TV business, and finally my last stint with Airtel was as head of their brand marketing team for their mobile services business. So that's really where the idea of Obino came to me, because I had a baby then and I put on a crazy amount of weight. And it was very difficult for me to lose the weight on my own. And I kept thinking, would it be really nice if I could carry a weight loss coach around with me on my mobile? And that's how, with an initial investment of about 20-25 lakhs, Obino, a virtual weight loss coach, was born.
Ritu, that was truly an inspiring story. And now over to you on your startup and how it works.
So we are a very simple product. We are a weight loss coach on your mobile. And really the reason why we started it is today everybody above the age of 25, I think a lot of people below it as well, are constantly struggling with their weight. Whatever weight you're at, you want to improve it in your eyes. And the traditional methods of weight loss, a gym, a slimming center, VLCC, they're all extremely inconvenient. And if any of us, and I think a lot of us have tried to lose weight, sneaking out of office to go meet your nutritionist, coming back at 7:30 and trying to hit the gym, it's just tremendously inconvenient. Also, there's a whole lot of misinformation in the market. Run, you will lose weight. People hurt their knees doing that. Drink hot lemon water in the morning and you'll lose weight. I don't know how many lemons have been sacrificed to the cause.
I forgot honey.
My personal peeve.
Okay.
So there's a lot of misinformation. And when I tried to lose weight, I was highly unsuccessful on doing it on my own. And I eventually went to a dietitian and I lost weight. My grievance with the process is that it's very inconvenient. It's hugely expensive. And at the end of it, it's very isolating. You feel like you're fighting a private battle all the time. So when we set out to solve this problem, we said, can we bring the coach on the mobile with you 24/7 to guide you in the right lifestyle choices? And that's exactly what we do.
So why do you think that's so unique?
It's not brilliantly unique, but I don't think it needs to be brilliantly unique to be able to solve the problem.
Okay.
What we are, and what we've proven in the last 6 months, we're only about 6 months old, is that our methodology works. And it works consistently across age categories, medical conditions, genders. And end of the day, if you can help anyone lose weight and keep it off, I don't think the solution needs to be vastly differentiated. It just needs to be unique and convenient.
So give us some quick statistics and then we'll get to your question.
So just in December and January alone, we're a very small group. Since we launched, we've had about 18,000 downloads. We have about
It's a free app.
It's a free app. It's a free Miam app. So the basic application is free. We have about 18,000 downloads, about 2,200 active users. About 10 to 12% of the people check in on a daily basis on the application. We've coached in the last 4 months, we've coached about 160 people, all of whom have lost at a minimum of 1 to 1.5 kilos per month.
But these are the ones who are using it free or freemium?
No, these are the paid customers. The freemium ones, we don't really keep a check on.
1.5 kilos a month.
Minimum.
Okay.
And I think what's really helped us is we've been learning as we went along and refining the product at every stage. And what we're really trying to deliver is a solution that in all respects sits on your mobile. Whether you want to chat with a coach at 12 in the night, whether you want meal recommendations from what's present in your kitchen. So we have a proprietary technology that you tell it you have eggs in the house and it'll tell you what to eat to stay under your diet limit and to lose weight.
And who's consulted you on that? I mean,
so we have in-house dietitians and experts, and we've built the...
And that information, according to you, is not available in the public domain?
No, it's not.
Okay.
What I would really like some guidance on is how do we look at low-cost, high-impact marketing channels? What could you suggest, given your experience, that would work for us?
See, I think, firstly, you need to have a differentiator. Mm-hmm. And I know you started off by saying, I don't need to be very, very different in that thought process. But I think this is a field that's going to grow slowly and steadily. It's going to be complementary to many other skills that are going there. You've identified and articulated very well a strong niche. Now it has to go to a very different level. I would say that if you start spending too much of marketing money in the beginning, that's not going to be the best strategy for you. You'll have to grow it at a step by step. So either you figure out this is a good business that I want to run for a certain period of time and build it slowly and steadily, and when it gets to a certain base, then I'm going to open up everything else. That's one way to go, which is not a bad way to go because you've started off on this basis. Or you're hungry for growth right here, right now, and you want to take quantum leaps. Then wastage will happen. So if you want to get to scale at a particular level because you think, I've got to get out there faster than anybody else. So those are two very clear decisions that you need to make. Wastage will be a lot in those marketing forums because even if I say you can do your normal digital marketing and you definitely don't need to go to unconventional media, and if you go to just digital, even that now is a much more pay mode.
Yeah,
it's no longer, you know, let's go viral here, let's go viral there. All your platforms, everyone's used the word viral, and the word viral is only now appreciated out of absolutely there. So find something in the communication that I think makes a difference. Because while I think you've articulated your product very well, it's still in a space where there's a lot more fragmentation that's happening.
Ronnie, you've actually heard all three of them. Do you find all their business ideas actually scalable?
I have to say that in today's session, there's a lot of homework that's gone into it. So I know we started off by saying that that's not a generality, and I think today there's a fair amount of exception for that. And I think each one has got either a depth of experience before they got into being an entrepreneur, or they've spent so much time in that they've learned from their mistakes and taken it forward. So it's very evolved.
So let me come back to my favorite question, Ronnie, which is if you were at gunpoint and you had to invest, right, in one of the three entrepreneurs today, who would it be?
On gunpoint, it'll be Shiro.
Right.
But I think I do want to compliment all three of you all for some very, very interesting businesses that you're in.
On that note, it's time to take a quick break. But coming up, of course, we have an audience that's very impatient and dying to throw questions to Ronnie, so stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Starting Up with Ronnie Screwalla, and as promised, it's now time to turn our attention to the audience sitting here and indulge them a little bit. So, you know, Ronnie's here. He's yours for some time, so please shoot all your questions and make them crisp and extremely intelligent.
I know in your previous episodes, you were talking about what happens when a lot of these startups get VC money. And we all understand that when a company, like especially a startup, is funded with VC money, they spend a lot of crores in marketing, right? And every time an investor comes in and invests in a startup, the first question that these people have in mind is, how soon can I go to a 10x? Or how soon can I go to a 20x?
You're reading too much in the media, I think, from what most people I don't think that's always the ground reality, but yes, some of the companies that get into media, so these are part perception, part reality. But go ahead, what's your question?
Right, so the question is, why don't these investors stop these startups from wasting money in just marketing? Because when they do that, when these people actually control the amount of money that you put in these marketing, the next thing that you can do is maybe not just make 10x, you can make 20x.
Yeah, no, I think investors, in many aspects, you need to understand they're much more savvy than most entrepreneurs. They're also the best risk takers because, frankly, they know that when they're investing in 10 companies, 5 will actually fall and die, 2 may be okay, and 3 are going to be super winners. So if you look at that, that's a better risk than you're willing to take across the board. Second, they meet 999 entrepreneurs and decide on one. So they've gone through that and they've got a sense. So I think the perception that everyone puts in money only for the purpose of marketing is false, and I would take that away. I would deconsume myself from reading on media. Broadly, I would not base my plan or my journey in entrepreneurship based on that.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
In most of the phase that in this era, that startup tend to make application right now. And downloading the application is a major challenge. And the next challenge is making the users keep the application and use it. So what are the potential entry barriers that you would like that startups can create so that in the next 6 months that they don't get copied and have Me Too's around the application space?
But I think you've almost answered the question that you've asked yourself, to be honest, because if you don't make something that's going to stand out and it has a longer term view and is going to get copied in 3 months or 6 months, the first part is you haven't made an app that's worth anything because it takes a certain amount of traction. I think the second one is that, yes, it is a crowded market, and if it's not going to get loaded and it's not going to get differentiated, it's going to be a problem. So I would say that it seems like the easiest way to be an entrepreneur is to go through some of these segments. And I would caution you that that's not necessarily the answer. You want to think through a little bit more deeply on that thought process.
Ronnie, do you think too many people today are starting up without actually having a compelling idea and without really looking at whether there is actually a revenue model? Do you think people are just jumping into it because today somewhat the acceptance of starting up is there and it's also cool to start up?
I think first there's a problem that not too many people are taking that leap into entrepreneurship. But I do agree with you that those who are, because they're kind of hurtling down on that process where I mentioned at the start of the program that there isn't that kind of homework and the depth of which they go into. An idea is a good place to start, but you got to pause right there in that thought process, because after that comes the real tough work on the plan. And I think everyone gets too infatuated by that thought process, doesn't want to necessarily do the market research to go forward on that.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Starting Up with Ronnie Screwalla. Hope you enjoyed the show. Next week, be sure to tune in as we'll come back with 3 more dynamic entrepreneurs, a fresh set of problems and issues, and of course, the man himself, Ronnie Screwalla. Until next week then, chew on this line. It's never too late to go out there and start up, but please do your homework.